theyeshiva.net.
So what was the point that we learned yesterday? I'm looking at a piece of art. It's wondrous, it's magnificent, it's exquisite, it's beautiful. It's something special, one of a kind. I must come to the conclusion that this didn't happen randomly. This happened by design, purposefully. This doesn't happen on its own because somebody spilled ink. And from the pashkerai, such an exquisite piece of art was created. I must assume that there is someone behind it, and not just someone. That the one who drew this painting, as he puts it, is a Chacham Amuk Bazeh. He has unique talent, unique skill for this work. He's an extraordinary artist. I may not be so knowledgeable or cognizant or skilled myself or aware to be able to really understand what it takes. I may not be even an artist myself or an art connoisseur. That's true. But I understand limited. If I would know more, I would appreciate more. But based on my knowledge, what I'm capable of knowing at this point, I can yet appreciate something of the quality of the artist. Even if I don't even understand his quality as an artist so perfectly. Because I'm not one. I'm not like a peer of his. So even that itself is limited, but there's something I can appreciate. It happens every day. The same is true when I'm looking at a home that was built magnificently, or reading a book that was written, which is, whether it's engaging or profound or transformative or dramatic, whatever the genre is, or brilliant. Again, I may not even appreciate the level of the brilliance that it took because I don't have it. But I could see that, there's something special here. And the writer, the author, has something. The same is true with a speech. The same is true with a piece of music. You hear a piece of music. You may not be a musician yourself. You may not be a great expert on music. But you could say that the person who composed this had a deep chush in music. Right? And the same is true with any creation. It could be a creation of a business. As you study a business model, a company, a corporation, of course, in a different realm. And you know that the person behind this was, as they call it, a fake businessman. He knew what he was doing.
Same holds true for chaos, for tragedy, for...
Well, if the chaos has order, if the chaos has a design to it, yes. If the chaos is just chaos, obviously not. If the chaos is organized, sometimes chaos is planned. Revolutionaries plant chaos into the system. Yeah, you're right. A book like Mein Kampf also tells you about the author in the opposite way. What a dangerous monster you might be dealing with. Right? Etc. Yeah. What you don't know, though, is who the person is. You don't know if, say, this artist is a master in other disciplines that are not connected to art. That you'd never know. How could you know that? Certainly you wouldn't even know, even more, that maybe he is, even though he's an artist, but that's almost his most insignificant quality. This is like, his side job. And it's actually, this piece of art is the most inferior of his expressions. That you certainly wouldn't know. So you can go your whole life thinking about him, speculating, writing books about him. Especially if there's hundreds of pieces of art, thousands of pieces of art. You can write biographies and you could create your own art, paint pictures in your mind. But then one day, somebody comes and tells you, come and meet him. And everything changes forever. Come meet him. That's a whole different experience. And that's the nekuda, that's the ponim beponim dibur Hashem emachem, that the same mashal, the nimshal of this, exists in our relationship with the great artist of all mankind and of the entire planet and the entire universe. Ein tzur ke'elokenu. The Gemara says in Brachas, Ein tzayer ke'elokenu. Ein tzur, it says Ein tzur ke'elokenu, right? There's no, tzur is a rock, a boulder. So the Gemara says, tzur is tzayer, there's no artist like Elokenu. So it's actually a very appropriate mashal. It doesn't stop use a mashal of tzir. You can use a lot of mashalim, but it's an appropriate mashal. That the same is true in our relationship with Hashem. That there is kel shin daled yud. Shin daled yud is, I know the koyach hagvul. I know the power of finiteness. Or to put it differently, I know Shem Havaya de Lasata, the lower level of Shem Havaya Meloshen Mahava. I know the Creator through creation, from creation. And even that's why we emphasize in the mashal. Do I understand what it means to create a world? Of course not. Just like I don't understand what type of artist the artist is. I don't understand fully what it takes. But I could say, wow, this artist knows what he's doing. He's brilliant in art. Do I know exactly? I don't even understand that exactly. If I would be able to create a world myself. And we can't even create a wing of a mosquito. As the Yerushalmi says. Afilu kol boy olam miskansen, einim yicholim livre, afilu konof yitush echad. But there's something I do know. There's something you can appreciate. It's called deduction. You deduce it, right? You deduce it from the product.
He does acknowledge that still holds some level of idea.
Yeah. That's the chachma of Hashem that is known. Known from what? From that which we know, that which we see, that which we perceive, that which we experience with our five senses and with our intelligence.
Why does he say earlier, Nesha Olamos Eina Machrichim Afilu Yidiyas Amatzis? I mean, you don't necessarily come to
Afilu Yidiyas Amatzis me atzmo Seiren Seif. Me atzmo Seiren Seif. The Olamas are not machriach even a superficial knowledge of Atmos. Atmos would be like who the artist is at his core. What type of family life does he have? Who is he in his essence? Does he have other interests? Is it even possible that the whole artwork is the lowest expression, is the most inferior expression of it? I wouldn't know. That's what we mean by Atmos.
why does he use the Lashon Afilu? Olamos Eina Machrichim Afilu Yidiyas Amatzis.
Yeah, because he says the Olam Seina Machrichim Afilu Yidiyas HaMetzias Ma'atzmos Eretz Sof. There's two types of Yidiyas. There's Yidiyas HaMetzias and Yidiyas HaMahus. Yidiyas HaMahus is understanding something's core. Yidiyas HaMetzias is just knowing the fact. I may not understand the core of this artist as an artist from looking at the art, but I do know there's a big artist out there. I do know there's some major architect here. Do I know who this architect is in terms of an architect? No, because I don't really appreciate the depth of architecture and his depth. But I do know at least the fact that there's a great architect. But the Olam is Eina Machrichim Afilu, even a level of Yidiyas HaMetzias, of Atzmos Ein Sof. They're machriach that there's a Metzias of a Boire, but not of Atzmos Ein Sof, who is beyond Boire. You understand what I'm saying? They're machriyach metzias of boire. There's an artist, there's a designer, there's an author, there's a musician, there's a composer, there's an architect, there's a contractor. But so what do I know? I know that he's a contractor. There's an expression, look at the Torah and Shashir and the Balatanya says, Loi zeu ikere elikus masha olamus mishavim mimeno. Don't define the primary aspect of godliness by the fact that the worlds come from him. That's the nekuda. Loi zeu ikere elikus. That's the lashon of the Balatanya. Masha olamus mishavim mimeno. That's not the ikar of elikus. I say Rebbeinu Shalom Bashefer. Don't define elikus by the fact that the worlds come from him. That's not the ikar of elikus. Is it true? Of course it's true. Not only that, in Zohar, as we said, the Asara Maamaris are called Miladeh, which means, if you could say so, peasantry language, simple, mundane language. Lav urcha de malka l'shtoy b'miladeh yet. It's a passage for the king to speak such language. Why would we call that Asara Maamaris miladeh? Language of hedyot, of a peasant. Simpleton is language. You know what a hedyot is? Simpleton language. Why? Because Legabi de etzem, what does it express? It doesn't even express a fraction of his essence. It's like the artist who really lives in a completely different and transcendent world. And the Chacham of Tziyur is considered the most inferior expression of his magnitude. But what I know about him is only this aspect, because I never met him. That's called Chachma Yediyah. The Chachma that we know from Hishtalshalos, the Chachma that we know from the Bria. You understand? Now. Avram Avinu, Hikiris Boiroi, how? He looked at the palace. And he said, who is the master? And Hashem reveals himself and says, I'm the Balabayas Lebirizu. I'm the Balabayas. You're saying this is like Mamali Kalaman and Seviv Kalaman. Okay. You could put it in that, you could put it that way as well. You could put it that way as well, yeah. And the real question is it even possible to have a relationship with anything beyond that? Perhaps not. Here you have a book, read the book. Look at the mansion. Study the art. That's what you have, yeah. Maybe that's the top, that's the highest level man can reach. Don't delude yourself. There's a quantum leap between infinity and finiteness. You can grow within your finiteness more and more and more. And the highest you can reach is study the design, study the universe, go to the moon, yeah, study the cell, look at whatever you could look at. And whatever you know, and it's amazing. Listen, you could spend 100 million years on it, no question. You could spend 100 million years trying to figure out this world. We still haven't scratched the surface, and a lot of progress has been made. Even in the last 50 years, progress has been made in terms of understanding the world, maybe more than 4,000 years, 5,000 years, just in the last 50, 100 years. The developments have been so rapid and so dramatic. They trumped all the developments for thousands of years in terms of our knowledge of the universe, never mind in fields like medicine and neuroscience, right, et cetera, et cetera. But that's the limit. That's the limit. Comes Moshe and says, Ponim beponim dibur Hashem imachem. Where Yiddishkeit begins is, and this is the Chiddush, the revolution of Matan Torah is that Kivayachal Hashem in his essence, he implanted himself. What's that himself? his very core, in the core of a Yiddish neshama. That's the nekuda of a Jew. That the etzem haneshama is teufus, or as he puts it, be'etzem haneshama nitfus amitis mitziyusa. The emes of his mitzias is nitfus, it's experienced, it's grasped. It's found in the core of a soul, which the worlds cannot express, not because they don't want to, not because they're evil, they're magnificent. But the olam is manifest and express that which the artist is choosing to express through this piece of art. In the pnimiyus haneshama, in the core of the soul, the Jew just knows God. Which God? Not the God of philosophy. Hashem Kemoishahu in Etzem Etzias. It's called an intimate relationship. The core of I connects with the core of thou. The I and thou relationship, not the thou that is manifested through a particular product which tells me something, but the you at your core. That's a whole different mice. This is the nekuda of what emunah is. This is the nekuda of the Yiddishkeit. This is the nekuda of Torah. This is the panim bepanim dibur Hashem emachem. That the etzem hayechida knows atzmus oirin sof like a best friend. So you say, but from where? From what? Where? Well, how? How do you know? What do you know? You're finite. What do you know? But that's the nekuda, that's the whole chiddush, that God himself, in his essence, he planted that essence that is infinite, that is eternal, that is transcendent beyond even the creator. And understand, even the first thing, what are you grasping? Again, I know that there's a great artist. Do I understand what it means he's a great artist? No. That itself I don't really know. In other words, even the first level is infinite. I just understand that. But I'm touching it. I'm touching it. But then there's meaning there. There's kavayachal meeting Hashem. It's a whole different experience. It's not the siman, it's the tviyas ayin. It's back to the siman versus the tviyas ayin. The siman is, the world is a siman for Hashem. God leaves simanim everywhere. If you want to look, if you don't want to look, you won't find anything. But if you're interested, there's a siman. You know, Hashavas Aveda. What's Hashavas Aveda? Hashavas Aveda means returning a lost item back to its master. No, which is the greatest Aveda in history? The world. And Ayeka, what's Ayeka? Where have you been? Where are you? Yeah? You're lost. Ayeka, what do you say Ayeka? What's to do? You're lost. After the Eitz Hadas, we're trying to do Hashavas Aveda. The Gemara says, Eisa Shaita. What's the definition of a Shaita? You know what the Gemara says, yeah? Hama'abed masha noistem loy. You give him something and he loses it. So the Balatanya teaches, Hama'abed masha noistem loy. The Rebbeinu Shalom gives every person ma. What's ma? Ma is the gift of bittul. Ma is chachma, koyach ma. V'nachnu ma. And you lose it. Hama'abed ma shenoistem loy. There's mefalir de ma. So all of Avodah is Hashavas Aveda. You got to return the lost object back to its owner. We spoke kol ha'omed davar b'shem oimrei mevi geula la'olam. You have to identify the oimrei. Everything has an oimer. What do we say in the morning? Baruch sha'amar v'haya olam. Baruch oimer v'oisa. There's a b'shem oimrei mevi geula la'olam. That's how you redeem the world. So it's all Hashavas Aveda. You're returning the lost object to its master. You're saying, here, this is yours. You make a bracha on a cup of water and you say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam she'akol niya b'dvara. If not, the water is lost. You do Hashavas Aveda. You return it. You return a lost object to its master. You say, this belongs to you. Lashem ha'aretz umloya tevel v'yesheva. How do you do Hashavas Aveda? You need simanim. How do I know it's yours? I found a shirt. How do I know it's yours? I found a pen. Simanim. So the master left simonim everywhere. There's simonim everywhere. There's simonim. If you look, if you're not interested, you're not interested. If you're zokin ve'ena lefi kvoidai, then there's no, salam till you go weiter. You know this sugi about mitzvah, but if you want to do Hashavas, the simonim, take a look well, you'll find a simon. So what do I know about you from the simon? I know that you made this simon. I know that this is yours. But then there's something called tviyas ayin. Tviyas ayin comes from inner recognition. I experience you. That's a whole different experience. And that's the chiddush of a neshama, of a chiddush of a nefesh, that etzem a neshama. Beyond logic, it's toifus atzmus ein soif. That the core of Ein Sof, Hashem himself, bequeathed this very essence, and so to speak, implanted it in the core of the soul. That they're one. There's a oneness. I don't know the abstract God of philosophy. There's an intimate embrace. The first God can also be very cold. It can be a cold one. There's a certain detachment. This one, there's no detachment. In the first one, it's like, oh, there's a world. If there's a world, there must be a God. There's no personal relationship. There's no intimate relationship. It's a logical, philosophical conclusion. A great piece of art has a great master. That's a great artist. But here, it's a whole different experience. Here, it's the intimate relationship, and not only intimate relationship with the Boire, an intimate relationship with the core, with the essence of all, with Atzmos Ein Sof. So we continue, Tesvav, second paragraph. Ulefiza meturitz lebeis hakushiyas. We come now back to the conversation of Hashem with Moshe. Both of his questions have been addressed. What's the question? Question number one is, what's the whole purpose of Golus? I don't see sin. Question number two is, if you're already sending me to redeem the Jews, why is it getting worse after? The Geula starts, Shekashihigi Avram l'tachlis shlemus b'bris ben absar. Ba'asagos sevavidosi akoid mimshuinyan b'chines avaya de l'sato. Nisoider b'moker gilu yoiser naila. Shuinyan havaya de la'ela sheyizgalai de matan Torah. As Avram Avinu reached his ultimate perfection in Bris Ben Absarim represented the moment that Avram reached his shleimus as Avram Avinu. What's that shleimus? That great scientist who is searching for the truth and will give up everything for the truth. A world that's steeped in paganism and idolatry and promiscuity is the world that Avram is born into and raised into. And yet, his keen and acute search for truth takes him on a journey down a road less traveled. And as a result of that, Avraham Avinu really is the great revolutionary who says, Yesh balabayis lebirizu. There is a truth here. There is manaf, there's a oneness here. There's a calling. There's a lech lecha meyartzecha. Yeah, he wakes up the universe, he wakes up civilization from its slumber. He reaches his shleimus by Bris Ben Absarim. What's the shleimus? Havaya de l'sata. Havaya in terms of mahava, appreciating boire. What happens now? As the teacher, back to our mashal, you remember? The teacher reached the shleimus of the first shiur because it hit soif maisa. It's now being communicated to the student after all the toil in the teacher's mind, the yud and the hey and the vav and the hey. Remember? The klal prat. I'm not going to chazer it over now because we're not going to finish this Maamar. If I go back, you have to remember and chazer. But after all, the student now, it's already going in, he's giving it, so it's the soif maisa. It reached the soif, and what happens now? A new tchila emerges in the makar. So Kivayachal Avram finished Avram reached his shleimus avodah, what happens? In the makar, in the makar, in the source, in the boire, a new gilui emerges, a new revelation emerges. What is that? We call it Havaya de La'ela. This Shem Havaya Miloshen Mahava, a creator. Shem Havaya is also called in Halacha Shem Ha'etzem, Shem HaMefurish, Shem HaMiyuchad. Havaya Leila. What's Havaya Leila? Havaya in its higher form, meaning beyond the definition of Mahava. Sheyizgal, this will be revealed through Matan Torah. Va'isayrirusu sibas istalkus gilu yakodem. That's the only reason that the old revelation must depart, because something new, a new window opened. And for that window to be completely opened, the old one got to close. This is Eirus of the new is the reason that the old Gilui must ascend, must cease. Let's remember, if the Rav continues the old Gilui, right? That triggering moment, that epiphany is gone forever. There has to be a histalkus from the old. I'm sorry, what? Yes, the Brisbane Absarim. So what does Hashem say in the middle of Brisbane Absarim? There's going to be Golos. I'm making a covenant with you. Imagine, you're proposing to your fiance, we're going to have the most amazing life, and you're going to be in exile for 400 years. Right? Don't give me your honey, don't give me your bite. It's something is misplaced there. We understand in a moment of musar, a moment of chastisement, a moment of alienation, a moment of anger, a moment of chariyaf. There's the toichecha. But we're here at Brisbane Absarim. We're eternally connected with this greatest love. Oh, by the way, you're going to be in exile for many years.
Many times in this Maamar, we emphasize this point over and over. Right? It's Orus, it's Sibas.
Always, yeah.
As though to reassure us
Yeah.
that if you think there's ever his talkus, connection with God has ever been broken, it's only because there's
right.
But you should never think you're in a vacuum.
Yes. You're right. But this is very, very important. That's why he keeps on saying, the reason there's histalkus is because something new opened up. It's not when there's histalkus, oh, let's give him something new. No. There is no departure without a deeper revelation. If something closed in your life, if there's a moment of confusion, uncertainty, darkness, it's because a new light was unleashed. And in order to open yourself up to the new light, the old light ascended. And the more the new light is emerging and fermenting and taking shape, the deeper the old light must ascend. Like in the metaphor. In the beginning, the teacher will continue the shiur. Remember, on the level of Chachma, right, the first week, he'll continue the shiur. He had an epiphany. Wow, he's like, ooh, that's interesting. But he'll continue, he'll wing it. But then as the new light, takes on more shape, what we call Bina, now there's already, his words are, it's a tumult. There's confusion. But then when there's Das, when that new idea is really taking shape and becoming internalized, he just grows quiet, silent. This relationship is dead from an external perspective. And what is it all about? That there's a new light coming to the student. But it's a process. So it's not that there's a histalkos, and then there's a new gilui. No. The gilui is what prompts the histalkos, which means if you could see everything from its pnimius, there's no histalkos. Because the whole histalkos, which is again the ascent, the distant, the absence, the darkness, is really what? It's really a manifestation of a new awareness of a new gilui. And that changes everything. That's exactly the idea. When was Mashiach born? The moment of the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. It's not two separate things. It's not there's a destruction and God says, oh, what do we do now? Okay, let's bring Mashiach. No. The destruction happened because Mashiach was born. The Churban happened because Mashiach was born. Not there's a Churban. Oh, I got to give them something. Okay, let Mashiach come into the world. Let's try to fix this. You see how this changes everything. Yeah. That's the idea that we spoke about before Tisha B'Av. The Gemara in Yuma, right? Nun Daled, when they came into the Kodesh HaKadoshim to destroy it. They didn't come in to do Ketores. They came to destroy it. These are the Babylonians. Ro kruvim urin zebazeh. They see the cherubs, the kruvim intertwined, representing the greatest moment of intimacy. Really? This is the greatest moment of intimacy? It's the greatest moment of alienation. Rega, in a good day, they're looking at each other. In a bad day, they're facing away from each other. In the worst day, they're hugging each other. What's going on? Unless you see the whole thing from a different perspective. The ultimate departure, the ultimate istalkus came because there's an ultimate gilui of intimacy. But it still doesn't take away from the pain of the fact that the teacher is sitting and he's looking at his teacher and there's no teacher anymore. From his perception, that relationship has grown dark, silent. In the beginning, there's still words, there's still gestures, there's still some communication, but then there's complete distance. Yeah. And both are true. This should never delegitimize empathy. Everything is just beautiful. There's Tisha B'Av and there's Shabbos Nachamo.
Students were supposed to panic.
Right. If you're a good student, you panic. That's why Tisha B'Av is a fast day. We don't say Tisha B'Av, but on the other hand, when Mashiach comes, what's Tisha B'Av going to be? It's going to be the greatest Yom Tov. There's a lashon in Psikta. Ein Yom Tov ela Tisha B'Av. Really? Because that's really, it's not pshat. The Rambam says that when Mashiach comes, all the fast days are going to be Yom Tovim. So the way we learn it is, there won't be a reason to fast, right? But why will it be a Yom Tov? So there won't be a reason to fast Tisha B'Av. Fine. So we won't fast. We won't have to watch videos all day. We'll be able to go to work. Okay. Why did it become a Yom Tov? Because it used to be a tragedy. How do you understand that? So at Parshas you say, it's nice because the bad day became a good day, so we're celebrating it. But it's just like any other day. The pshat is something else. When you understand this, of course it's the biggest Yom Tov. Because that was the essence of the sadness as well. Yeah, in other words, Tisha B'Av is really the greatest day. It's really the day of Geula. It's really the day of Geula. Of course it's the greatest Yom Tov. But only that element you'll only see when the new Gilui emerges. As long as what we're experiencing is still histalkos, that you're not open to that yet. And it would be a crime. A Jew gets up to this, I'm going to eat Tisha B'Av, I'm going to drink Tisha B'Av, because Mashiach is going to come and it's going to be a Yom Tov. That's an Aveda. A person, it means you're not human. It means you're detached from something. There's something off about it. Are you right? Yeah, you're right. You're right. In the perfect ideal world, you're right. But we don't live in a perfect ideal world. We live in a world that's still fragmented. Yeah. We usually look at life, there's a cause and there's an effect. Really what we're learning here is the opposite. The effect is born and thus the cause is triggered. The effect is really the cause for the cause. What comes later is really happening earlier. There was a new Gilui, and that's the Sibbe that is a Histalkus. So you say, but I don't know what to do with my life. And this is true. This is true about Klal Yisrael, it's true about individuals, it's true about every person's life. And it's not easy to see. Because when I'm struck with this confusion or this uncertainty or this state of weakness, what I'm feeling is just, I'm lost. I'm lost. But you have to know, why are you lost? Why are you lost? Because a new way opened for you. And this way is going to take you nowhere. What does it mean to be lost? What it means to be lost is, I'm following a path and I'm like, I don't know where I'm going. Thank God, there's a whole new way for you. Rebbe Ziel, verstehst? Klois HaNefesh?
No, in a personal tragedy, the
Oh, yeah, now you're going to ask me the hard questions, yeah?
the light that's there is for that person or for the cloud, or is specifically for that person as well?
It's also for that person. But remember, we're still in Galus. So we still grapple with this. We're talking Shiva Nechemta now. But remember, what's Shiva Nechemta? Shiva Nechemta doesn't mean that the student got it. Remember, this means that he sees a glow on the face. He's like, there's something good out there. Right? You remember, in the first 3 weeks, it's just panic. It's like, I used to have a teacher. I don't know. He just disappeared. He broke off this relationship. I don't know what happened. Shiva Nechemta is, you already see a glow. Nehiru da'anpin. So what does that mean? It just means there's hope, there's comfort, there's solace. I don't know what yet. Then the student has to open himself up to be able to get that, and then he can get it. So that's in the calendar. But in terms of history, it's a struggle, and there's some things that that at this point in history, we can just look at it and cry. That's the truth. And hug, yeah. And that doesn't mean there's no emunah and betachan. That's the student has emunah. He's a real student. He's not a detached student. But it's a painful moment. And it's really acknowledging the idea that I can't wrap my brain around everything. I don't have to. I don't have to figure out how it's going to be good. And the reason is, actually, if I try to figure it out, it's going to get much worse. Because it's actually not something that my brain can deal with at the moment. I have to shut my brain and say, don't figure it out. Just be present. Don't run away. Be present. We have this instinct that we have to figure things out. It's sometimes people have this issue, they feel they have to explain things to people. If you can explain this, then you didn't get it. You understand? Yeah, you just didn't get it. If you're explaining it, you're actually worse off than the person you're trying to explain to. Actually, he gets it. How do I know he gets it? Because he knows he doesn't get it. And you're trying to bring him back to old paradigms, like, no, I'll explain it to you. And you're fitting it into old models. The whole point is a new model opened. And you know how you open yourself up to new models? Silence. That's the first thing. You get this? Huh? This is very important. I didn't think of this before, but talking about, in the middle of a Shia, things come out. I knew it. I sometimes see in certain situations, people are explaining reasons to people. And the word explaining it is actually much further than the person he's explaining it to. Huh? Like Eikev's friends, yeah. He's trying to say, it's still the old paradigm. I'll take you back. I have a good shear for this. No, your old shear is gone. It's the Anaya shear. But he doesn't want to go to a new shear. He likes the old shear. He's been doing it for 65 years. Why should he go away from his old shear? This is where he got his covered from, his parnasa from. It's a good shear. I don't mean to judge anybody. It's not about judgment. I understand the psychology. It's a good shear. Why go away from it? Proved successful. But you're completely you're mamash in the dark more than the person who's in the dark. The person who's in the dark is opening himself up to the light. And you're in the dark and you want to stay in the dark. You're not even ready to open yourself up because you're taking me back to the medieval times, the dark ages, so to speak. Yeah. Right. You're right. I think from Einstein, right? Insanity. You do the same thing and you expect different results. I'm still giving the same shear. It's a different shear, Rabbi. And great teachers, which are great leaders in every generation, their teufels, there's a new oir. And the new oir is painful, because a new oir only comes with the death of the old oir. And that hurts, because it's the light that allowed me to see things. But that light was extinguished for a new light to come. That's not easy. So some people will say, let's just go back to the old light. And so they'll explain everything. But there's a new light. There's a new light. And the new light is not here to torture you. The new light is here because of love. And that's where humility comes in. Real humility comes in. Yeah. Exactly. My old paradigms and my old mindsets, which just yesterday were the key to my success, become the great trap. That trap the great light and will never allow it to, will never allow the growth. The new egg, the egg will never hatch. I take the egg and I just, I cook it too fast. There's a chicken coming out, huh? Bris ben Absarim, yeah.
Is that the same idea? Thick darkness fell upon you.
Yeah, that's it. V'hine ema, in the Bris ben Absarim it says, V'hine ema chashecha g'doyla noifelas alav. That's Maamar, this ema's dread, chashecha's darkness, huge dark, falls on Avram Avinu. And that's when God tells him about the Golos. And that's the whole question. You're making your covenant. This is the moment of the greatest love. What are you doing, Hashem? It's not like a moment Avram did this terrible sin. Hashem says, there's going to be a punishment here. Okay? This is a strange model. Bris ben Absarim is the eternal covenant that Hashem made with Avram Avinu. He promises in Eretz Yisrael, you're my nation. It's forever. It's eternal. It's unconditional. It's never going to change. Right then, there's darkness. What happened? So that's what we're learning here. That's the moment. Because Avram reached his great shleimus at that moment. Shema Avaya de Lasata, the tachlis of Avoida, the way it was then before Matan Torah, of discovering the Boirei. So now something new is born in the source. And what happens? That newness creates the ascent, the departure from the old. How is that translated? That's translated in Golos Mitzrayim. Of course he fell asleep. That's what you have to do. What happens when you fall asleep? You stop thinking, You don't figure things out, right? That's exactly the point. Sleeping here doesn't mean he fell asleep because he was bored. The sleep was an avodah. Falling asleep means I don't have to be in control. I don't have to figure it out, right? When we're awake, we have to be in control. It's good to fall asleep sometimes, in a positive sense. That's why the Jews went to sleep the night of Shavuos. Why'd they go to sleep? Okay, so those are all the details, the blackbirds, etc. But the idea of sleep is, I'm not in a position where I can wrap my brain around it. I don't have to figure this out. I can't figure it out. The student, when he's sitting there and the teacher goes, spaces out, says, I know exactly what's happening. I don't know what's happening. I really don't. I'm confused. If I substitute the pain with Tylenol and temporary reliefs, I'm like the same guy who was explaining it. I'm stuck again. You don't have to substitute it. You don't have to. We have this temptation. That everything has to fit in. So either I take Tylenol, right? Or I explain it. Or I'm looking for a substitute relief. Can I just sit in the moment, whatever it brings up? There's a pain there. There's an absence there. And I don't have to run from it. I have to be able to trust the relationship. Trust the teacher. He's a real teacher. If I don't, then you're right, I have to run away and I need Tylenol. But if I could trust, I could be here. We all know in human relationships what allows people to sit in their disagreements to sit in their pain. There has to be a trust. If I feel that ultimately I can't trust you, I'm not going to continue the conversation. I'll make a joke and I'll run away. You know what I mean? Or I'll storm out of the room. What allows me to sit in the pain is the fact that there's a trust. There has to be trust. I'm sorry, what did you say about Matan Torah?
Same language,
Very nice.
I never understood. Why? Supposed to be the most enlightening moment.
By Matan Torah, it says Choshech V'Arafel, the same Nekuda. Because that's the moment there was the revelation of what that Choshech was. The Choshech of Bris Bein Absarim, beautiful, emerges by Matan Torah. You know, the Matan Torah is really a commentary on the darkness. It's a commentary of what happened in the moment of darkness. In the moment of darkness, when all light seemed lost, really the new light was being born. And because the new light was being born, the old light became dark. So Matan Torah was really the commentary of the darkness. Beautiful word. We learned once, I think, a Maamar from the Balatanya about the Choshech and Arafel by Matan Torah. I have to remember what he says. We learned it Chavdala Tevis, Maamar Admir Azakan Aktsarim, I think. So let's finish this paragraph. V'ha'yisoiriru siba sistalkus gili hakadu. This Maamar has a lot of, you have in an article keywords. So certainly this is one of the key words. The Hisoirus is always the reason for the Histalkus. The reason there was a Histalkus is because there was a Hisoirus. The new Gilui was aroused, and hence the old said goodbye. V'lazen Hisoirir Hagalos. So by Bris Bein Absarim, there's suddenly an emergence of the concept of Galus. Why? What is this? It's the fact that a new light was born. Back to the mashal. It doesn't happen in one stage. The ascent of the teacher is stage after stage. He goes higher and higher and higher. When he goes a little up, it's a little istalkus. When he goes higher up, the istalkus is greater, just like in the mashal. The more the teacher is absorbing the new light, the higher he goes, the more he internalizes the new oir, the deeper the histalkus, the greater the distance, the profounder the absence. Probably can't say profound absence, but the profounder the sense of detachment. Like we learned, the 3 weeks is Chachma, Bina, Das. V'lachein, this gives us a new perspective. Hagalus u'b'chal yoim b'toikef yoiser. This is the answer why the galus every day becomes stronger. The galus should become easier if it's a punishment. But what if galus is not a punishment? What if galus is the prerequisite for the new light? What if it's not a punishment? So you're saying with more time, the galus should become easier. You're going out of prison soon. Come on, go into a halfway house. Here it's the opposite. But what if it's not a punishment? What if it's the development, the birth of the ultimate new light, of the ultimate love? So then the more that light is coming in, the more the departure from the old, and the more the old light gets extinguished, until when the new light is about to come in, the old light is completely extinguished. And what am I feeling? I'm feeling nothing. I'm hanging in the air.
It's like the birth of the child. The most painful moment.
The birth of a child, yeah.
Squeezing out of the prison.
Yeah. The most painful moment is that the child is about to emerge. The greatest pangs. You'd say, oh, this is the most horrible moment. Yes, I mean, it is. And I guess the people sitting here are not real masters of this issue.
Professional coaches.
Our job is, just to be there and to empathize and be present emotionally. But that's the point. We're saying about the caterpillar and the butterfly. That moment, the squeezing out. The squeezing out, yeah. You ever saw a chick come out of an egg? You ever watched it? It's powerful. Va'ato, now, keshenifsak hachiyus hakodem legamri. So Hashem tells Moshe, Atatir. Moshe says, why now? Now it's supposed to get better. Now, what happened now in Egypt? The old chiyus got completely interrupted. The last lifeline of spirituality was cut. The hainuk shemakhishin mitziyus alakus legamri udvar avaya shebasara mamoris einay meir klau. At this point, Paroi denies everything. Godliness is a complete non-starter. He calls it, chas v'shalom, a lie. And the word of God manifested in the 10 utterances of the creation, Einoi meir klal, there's no light whatsoever. The lowest nadir, the lowest moment. Al derech ne'elamti dumiyah. In Tehillim, there's an expression, Tehillim kapitel ametes, ne'elamti, I was silent, dumiyah, in complete silence. God's silence is thunderous. Right? You know the expression, your silence is deafening. The silence is so deafening. But that means you can hear the silence. Oh, that's already not silence. There's a silence, it's just silence. So there's nothing here. That's the silence Moshe experienced. So Hashem tells Moshe, this silence is deafening. You know why there's silence? Because you're about to hear the greatest noise. That's the silence. Ne'elamti dumiyah. Hu simin sha'oira chodosh shal matan Torah kvar nigle lamayla. This means that the new oil already took shape. It already emerged. Where? Why don't I feel it? Lamayla. In the mashal it would be by the teacher. In the teacher, it's there, and that's why he's completely silent now. He can't speak anymore. There's no communication. The whole chiyus is done. It's over, cut. From the student's perspective, this relationship is finished. Why? Because the teacher actually got the idea. An hour ago or a day ago when he didn't have the idea yet, he's still in communication with you. Now the communication stopped. He says to Moshe, Ato now, when the Asara Mamoris are completely eclipsed, the old shear is gone. There's no siman anymore for Hashem in this world. Look at Parah. He doesn't believe in anything. He just increases the gullahs physically and spiritually. What does this mean? This means that Matan Torah already came into the world. We're Lamaila. What's Lamaila? Lamaila Batzilis. Bezayin Midas Dezah. In the 7 midas of Atzilus, Va'ata dafke tira ki ka'es yizgala gamla neshamas debri yitzir asiyah. Now it's ready to come to the student, to be revealed for the neshamas of the world's bri yitzir asiyah, achakol ha'klipis yikonu v'kulam yoidu, where all the shells will ultimately become subservient, the husks will remove, and everybody will be able to acknowledge the truth. Val zenema, that's what he says. Ata sira, now you'll see, now. With a strong arm, he will expel them. This is how he answered both questions of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu asked 2 gewaldige questions. Question number 1, remember the Medrash. I look in Sefer Bereshis, I see sin, punishment, sin, punishment, sin, punishment. Cause, effect, cause, effect, cause, effect. Here I see an effect without a cause. Parshas Shmois Golus, without an antecedent, without a cause. Effect without a cause. Suddenly God, less din v'less dayan. Why are the Jews tortured? Why are the Jews abused? Why? What'd they do? There should have been a scene in Parshas Shmois. The Jews went to Egypt, they assimilated, they became corrupt, they stole, Mola, Mitzrayim, Chamos, right? And God turns to Moshe and says, well, Moshe wasn't around yet. God turns to somebody and says, ooh, they're going to suffer, but there will be salvation. Fine. That's not what happens in Shmois. Out of the blue, there's abuse. And this is the question that so many people ask. What did I do wrong to deserve this story in life? Tell me. So they go to experts, so the experts say, in a previous Gilgul you sinned. You understand what they're trying to do? They want to go to the old shear. Tamavin? In a previous Gilgul you sinned. They can't go out of their paradigm. You sinned. The question is which Gilgul? I was 3 years old when it happened. Yeah, it's a Gilgul. I could see it on your face that in a previous Gilgul you sinned. That's one way of dealing with it. Or maybe your father sinned, or your mother sinned, or your brother sinned, or your Zaydah sinned, or previous Dor sinned, and you're going to be a Mechaper, etc. And what happens? The person who asked the question, he just experienced abuse for the second time. He may even not be able to articulate it, but he knows he goes home, right? And he feels horrible. He doesn't know why. And it's not that the person was trying to harm him. He wasn't. He was doing the best he can using the tools that he has. He may be a very fine person, huh? The old shear, the shear that he knows. The shear that he uses to deal with everything. Right? So Moshe says, what's going on here? Give me an effect. Has to have a cause. It's not what happens here. That's what people say. Vayakam melech chadash. Suddenly, boom, gehakt, verhakt. What happens? Second question is, and now when you already send me to give the good news, we're going backwards. This Hashem says the two answers. At asira. At, only now. Why? Because you have to re-understand this whole galus. You're looking at me like Elohim, Ani Hashem. This is not about din. It's all love. What are you talking about? There was an old shear. I want to give them the new shear. Shem Avaya de La'ela. Hakara. Not just Yediyah. Tviyas Ayin. Not just Simon. Atzmus. Not just Boire. Ponim beponim. Not just distance. For that, the old shear has to go. And when the old shear is completely eclipsed, you know that the new one emerged. That's why now Geula can happen. This was the response to Moshe Rabbeinu at the end of Shmois and the beginning of Parshas Vayera. Okay. You see how everything starts coming together, huh?
You can experience Havaya Delayed on this world, that's only on that world.
When you learn these Maimonim, you can experience Havaya Delayla. Huh? Chachmei La.
How do we understand the rebuttal? The nimshal of the teacher, the rebuttal against an Osiris?
That's a good question. That's a good question. That's a good question. Like Hashem has an epiphany. So that's good, huh?
The started giving Moshe in terms of his share, and then he couldn't anymore. He was just able to gesture.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Sounds good. The Rebbe, he's saying the Rebbe brought in a new oir, and then he grew silent, and he can only gesture after his stroke, and then was histalkus completely. So some people run to the old shear because it's too much, and others are confused, and it's really you have to tune into the new oir. Beautiful, very, very powerful. Das ist gut. So steht, ja. Ja, jetzt ein Medrash, ja. Der ganze Fasamas. Yeah. The Medrash says that the Gulas Mitzrayim happened, Moshe appeared, and then he ran away with Nisalim, and then he appeared, and Vaita Nisalim, and the Medrash says the same is true by the Gula HaSiddur. Helam Gilu, I have to look it up. Yeah, there's a medrash. It says Nigla v'choyze v'neskasa v'choyze v'nigla v'choyze v'neskasa. That's the losh.
It's not a thing to the because they were quite there. Still, at least. I think that the items there that wanted to be Eila and much of anyone didn't have to keep telling them also. It's a new marathon. That's enough. Don't go back at all. Now, go back to the higher one. But that's maybe different. The Chaim there, and that's different.
How do you know when to switch over?
You never ask.
You don't want to go back to the old. How do you know when to switch?
I guess when the old is not working.
See, the balance is so low that would say you can't switch into the new if you're not ready.
No, it's switching now. I feel it. Oh, completely.
But if you feel it, that means it's still on the old.
No.
You want to understand. You know, sometimes, and you're still stuck there.
No.
How do you switch over?
Today I understood the new thing that I didn't understand the previous time. So it says there are two human traps. One is where a person still lives in the past, which is already gone. Another one, the person lives in the future, which didn't even happen. That might not even happen. It's two traps.
Two traps.
The Eikev is to be present.
Very good. Very good. There's the trap of living in the old that's gone. The trap of living in the future that's not here and it may never happen. Very good. There's living in the present.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Living in the present. And the present is sometimes the most difficult place to live. Because you don't have the past, you don't have the future. Yeah. Yeah, very well. That's good.
The muscle of the Maamar, the Rabbi is giving over to the Talmud Muda. Good stuff.
Very good stuff. And then boom.
Yeah. So the old stuff isn't dark.
No.
It's light. So then when the new stuff comes out,
But
then the old stuff eventually will come back.
of course, the new doesn't destroy the new doesn't.
So what's the Talmud and the student with Avraham Avinu?
Avram is the student, Hashem is the teacher. At the Brisbane Absarim, when that relationship reached its perfection, Soif Maisa, a new identity is revealed. And that's why at that moment he communicates the message of Galus.
Because that's part of the process. The Ellis had to be part of the process.
And it takes remember, it's hundreds of years. It's not like it's happening tonight. But in other words, the seed was planted for Galus. Why? Because there was a new epiphany. If there's a new epiphany, so the seed is planted for the old to die.
And the Churban was
The Churban is the moment that Mashiach is born. Because you're right. Yeah. You want to know why it's taking so long for the light to... That's a good question. Yeah, much bigger. That's the next piece. The next piece starts with the next light, yeah. From Brisbane Absalom to Matan Torah was just a few hundred years. From the Churban till Mashiach is much longer. Because it's a completely different light, even Lagabe Matan Torah.
So Tish B'Av in those days, it's in the past. Really, we're past that.
Yeah.
We're past that.
Yeah, that's the reason also why Tisha B'Av, they say it from, I think, the Ruzhina, the Hillel Ruzhina. He said that from the Baal Shem Tov, yeah, there's already a certain light that was revealed in Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av in the olden days was considered a very, very sad day. It still is, but it was very manifest. After the Baal Shem Tov, you saw that Tisha B'Av, there was, obviously everything has to be according to halacha, but there was a certain lightness. Because the closer you get to Mashiach, on one hand the darkness is worse, but on the other hand, you can already sense that the pnimius of the darkness is the light. Because you're getting closer to the new light. So on one hand, there's a very intense darkness because the closer to the light, the more there's stalkus. On the other hand, there's already a te'ima, taste. Yeah, the Shiva de Nechemta is that there's a light coming. So when you look at Tisha B'Av, you're not just seeing Churban, you're also seeing the birth, Mashiach. So even though it's still a day of Avelos and Tainus, of course, till Mashiach comes, it's Tisha B'Av, it's Tisha B'Av, it's not a Yom Tov. But there's a certain pnimius comes out.
Darkness is really light.
Because the darkness is really light. Yeah. That's the Vart. But there's stages in history. You can't be premature. In Golus, the darkness is darkness. But that awareness creates a shift. Huh?
We're in a good time now. We weren't in the Horban, we weren't in the World War, in Europe in World War II, and we were,
What did they say? It was the best of times, and it was the worst of times. But what we're learning here is, it was the best of times because it was the worst of times. But now we're ready for the best of times without the worst of times. That's what Geula is. Golus is the best of times because it's the worst of times. I'm laughing, it's not so funny. You understand? And Geula is the best of times without the worst of times, just the best of times.
Still, everybody has his own Geula.
And this is also true individually. The answer to Rabbi Moshe's question, that's already a very deep question, is I understand a teacher is limited, so he gets a new epiphany. What if Hashem gets a new epiphany? Well, he should have known it before. Yeah. The cover the chasana, he came up with new ideas. Mela, the teacher, is a limited teacher. He has a new epiphany. That's a very deep question. The answer is even deeper, though. Mamash Bekitza Nimrutz. If you remember, there were 3 reasons why the Shir unleashes new ideas in the teacher. Reason number 1 is because Koyach HaDibur is Mechalik. Remember, and the klal is that all birur comes through his chalkus. When you're forced to speak and articulate, it forces a clarity that you don't have without it. If you think about something, you will never have the same clarity. Say it even to yourself, say it. Because just getting it out in words, like writing it or saying it, forces much more clarity. That's a fact. I know I have ideas. I speak a lot. When I have to write the article, I have to go back to everything. Because you can't repeat yourself, and you have to, is this really the point? Or is this the point? Is that what? It forces you to crystallize the ideas. That's number 1. Number 2, he said, that when the desire of the teacher to give hits the wall of the student, you remember, and the student can't get it, so that combination of his desire to give and the student's frustration and inability, right, creates the Choizer that bounces back, and it unleashes a new creativity of finding new ways to communicate. Third thing he said is, Soif Ma'asav Machshavat Chila. That since the ultimate kavanah is to give, so when you hit the Soif Ma'asa, when the idea leaves your space and it goes into the student's space, you become reinvented. You find a place that you could have never found without that relationship. Right? Because when it hits the Soif Ma'asa, which is the Machshavat Tchila of the student, it evokes your Tchila. So Dr. Michel said the first 2 have logic, the third doesn't have a logic. And I explained that this is not logic, this is beyond logic. This is the whole operating system of the world is based on this truth, that God wanted a relationship. And therefore it's when the relationship hits the mark, that Kevayachal, Hashem, I don't know how to say this, if you could say it, there's a certain reinvention of himself, so to speak. Right? It brings out, like the Gemara says, Nitzchuni bonai nitzchuni. The Gemara says, Hashem says, my children won me. What they won? They were victorious over me. The Gemara in Baba Metzia, Peidalid, Nun Tes. Nitzchuni bonai nitzchuni. The child, Yafe koyach haben me koyach ha'av. The relationship is behind everything. So Mela, when the student gets the shir and it reaches its ultimate completion, so because of that, a new inyan in Elikus is revealed. A new inyan Kevayachal in Hashem also is revealed. Because the relationship is at the core of everything. Okay, we just need some time to ferment, but we'll get there.
Creates a vacuum. It seems like it almost creates a vacuum. It's about this goes in the pack. I just wanted to say one thing. It strikes me. So
Yeah.
we think of time as a linear time.
Yeah.
That's what you think.
Time, yeah. Linear, yeah.
Now,
So you're saying if time is linear, the cause precedes the effect. But if we see time as a circle, so the effect can precede the cause.
that's what it's actually what it does.
If we need a Chaim and good nigga.
Rabbi, can you repeat the last sentence you said before? Right before but Hashem actually gets.
Yeah. That Hashem in his deepest core wanted the relationship. Right? So when that relationship comes to fruition, yeah, something, so to speak, yeah, gets revealed in godliness that couldn't be revealed before that.
Within
So to speak, within the mucker. The new gilui in the mucker. Of course, in his core, everything is there. But because he chose this relationship, so that relationship, he chose it in his deepest place. So the ultimate depth emerges only through the relationship. It's not a simple idea, this. It's one of the chidushim of the Balatanya. I mean, chidushim, one of the ideas. In other words, it's not a philosophical idea, this. Huh? It's not a philosophical idea. It's ponim beponim. Verstehst? It's etzem hayichidis, teufes atzmos. In his deepest etzem, that relationship is embedded. So mele in that relationship. So you say, but what, Hashem is forced by that? No, but he chose that to be his deepest core. So b'mele, that relationship will bring out things that nothing else will bring out. Nothing else will bring it out. He will, so to speak, reinvent himself from it. I mean, it's sensitive stuff. This is the Nakuda. It says in Chassidus, Menachem Av means, why is it called Menachem Av? Literally, it means, right, the father comforts. But then it should be Av Menachem, not Menachem Av. Menachem Av literally means you comfort the father. So in other words, the child could comfort the father in a way that is very profound.
You're not a Michelin time Hillel from the plantation out there. I am not what I think I am. I'm not my body. I'm not. It's the soul that is. It's one couple of times. First case, but Anis Felus, it's the tefillah is me, and the Chol Hashem Eisratzim. For you, Hashem is Eisratzim to us.
Yeah.
Get to that level, then the
Yeah.
Hashem Eisratzim.
Vani Tfilasi, yeah, Vani Tfila. The Rebbe Rayatz once said, Vani Tfila, ich bin geworden a Stück Tfila. Vani Tfila, I became a Tfila. Okay. We'll be Mamshech Emetz Hashem tomorrow, yeah?
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.